Okay, so let's kickstart today's session. So just a quick introduction of myself. I'm Lee Sing. I provide FX advisory to institutional clients. If you have any questions when you're watching the recorded session, right, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So just a quick disclaimer, the information presented here is not to be treated as investment advice. It's for educational purposes only. So this is the agenda that we will be covering for today, right? First, we will take a look at the key economic events. After that, we'll be taking a look at our trade setups. So for today, I'll be covering mainly on dollar index as well as pound dollar. And then finally, we will open the floor to Q&A, right? So if you guys have any chart requests, do put them under the chat. Okay, so before we hop on to our setups, right, let's take a look at our economic calendar first. So let me just switch the screen. So for economic calendar, usually I'll just use Forex Factory, or you can use the economic calendar Advantage Markets, right? So let me just open up both of them so that you can see this. Okay, so you can just go to Forex Factory. So this is taking a while to load. Okay, so either Forex Factory or Vantage Markets is good, right? So just switch the timestamp. So I just switch it to my local time under economic calendar. Okay, I'll just filter for the higher impact news, right? So mainly this few. So you can see the upcoming key news events that we have, right, would be around the dollar as well as Kiwi, right? So Kiwi CPI data as well as dollar data. So that's for tomorrow. And then on Friday, right? So on Friday, we have PMI data as well as CAT retail sales data. So those are the key events that we have that are coming up, right? So let's take a look at our setups. So for our setups, the main ones I want to show for today, right? I'll be going through dollar index as well as pound dollar. So let's take a look at dollar index for a start, right? So if you take a look at dollar index here, right, on the higher time frame first. So this is taking a while to load, right? So on the higher time frame, right, let's first start off from our monthly time frame. So you can see on our monthly time frame, right, prices are currently testing a key level here. So this area. This region, so right. So it was a previous resistance and support level. You can see price coming into this zone with the reversal, broke above it and currently is testing this zone, right? So this is the picture on the monthly. If you're on the weekly time frame, you can see that it's not much difference, right? In terms of the levels, prices are testing this resistance and support area here. We saw multiple tests of this zone, once here, second time, and then the third time here. Right, so this is the picture on the weekly. So down to the daily time frame, right? So as always, if we're seeing any signs of reversal, we will first see that change in structure on the daily time frame. So if you take a look at the daily time frame, we can see that currently, right, prices are still holding below a descending channel. So if we're on the daily, right? So on the daily time frame, I just want to focus on the most recent price development, right? So it will be somewhere here. So you can see that for this zone, right, we have a descending channel form, right? So for a descending channel to be valid, we need price to test at least the resistance and support, right, twice. So both the top and bottom. So you can see here, right, just looking at the most recent price development on the daily, right, we have a descending channel that prices are currently testing. So this resistance area here. So again, right, you can see price coming to test this as a resistance twice, and then again as a support here. And even if you were to take a look at the daily market structure, right, if you just focus on this portion of the chart, we can see that prices are still in a bearish market structure. How so, right? Just looking at the most recent highs and lows, you can see that prices are still forming your lower lows and lower highs. If I were to switch it to line chart or close, you can see as well, right, just drawing the subsequent highs and lows. So this is currently the picture on the daily time frame, right? So just something to keep in mind, right? So prices, it's facing some kind of resistance. Even if you have to highlight some support resistance areas, just looking at this chart, let me just remove all this, right? So all these levels. Okay, so just looking at this level here, you can see that there is this last high where we saw that rejection before price broke past the low. So this area, it's the last resistance on the daily, right? So this zone. Okay, so this is one area for us to watch, right? So let's go down to the 4 hours time frame. So you can see that on a 4 hours time frame, right, prices are currently coming into this resistance area here. This zone, right? So if we were to extend this across, right, previously we went through these areas. I believe this was on the lower time frame, right? We talk about how the demand area follows through. And then when demand fails, right, the supply. So you can see this zone, right? So this demand area is here, right? So even if I were to just look at the candles, you can see that price came in. Maybe I'll just zoom into the 1 hour for easier to identify, right? So you can see that price came into this zone, right? And we have this demand zones that are being followed through, right? So price came in, tapped into this demand area, broke structure. You can see it broke structure here. And then the extreme area that caused the break in structure becomes the support region, right? And price came into this area, tested before we saw that strong break below this zone, right? So this was an area that we would like to watch. But if you extend this further, you can see that right now, right, prices are coming into this area here. So if you focus on this portion, you can see that there's this supply chain that's being formed, right? So we have this resistance area here. And then again over here, right? So the extreme of this move, right? So in this case, you can see that this area that we had, right, that tested the support didn't come into this supply zone, right? Just broke right through. And then this then serves as an area, right, or liquidity where there are areas that are lying slightly above the zone, or rather there are orders lying slightly above the zone. And then you can see that price came into the supply zone again, right? So if I were to extend this across, you can see that this supply region still holds. Okay, so this is on the lower time frame, right, on the 1 hour time frame. So you can see that just based on the most recent structure, right here, we have price coming in, forming a new low, right? And then right now it's coming into a resistance area. So just based on order flow, right, if price forms a new low, right, a new low here, right, in a bullish market structure, it should continue forming higher lows and higher highs. But if price comes into a resistance area and you see that on the lower time frame, your resistance zones or your supply areas are starting to hold, then what this shows is that this low itself, right, would be a potential target. Price could continue to the downside. So that's the idea, right? So when price comes into it on the 1 hour time frame, here, you can see that on the 1 hour picture, right, if we're to go into the 15 minutes time frame, currently on the 15 minutes, it's still again showing bullish structure, right? Higher lows, higher highs. So there isn't any sign of reversal yet, at least not on the 15 minutes time frame. In terms of the support region that you want to watch on the 15 minutes, it'll be this area here. You can see that this is the last low. So if I were to extend this across, you can see that this was the previous low that we had, right? Price came in, tested this zone, right? So if price continues to hold above this area, we could see more upside pushing into the resistance area, deeper into this 4 hour zone, or even onto your daily resistance, which is much higher. So that's the gray zone that we have here. Okay, so on the daily time frame, right, prices are coming into a potential resistance area. It's also holding below your descending channel. That's something we want to watch. In terms of structure, you can see that it's still showing you bearish market structure. That's the picture on the daily. If you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that currently prices are coming into a resistance zone, right? We marked out the previous areas here as well, right? So you saw the interaction and then price coming into the extreme or the wicks of these candles, where we saw that reaction here, right? So that's the picture on the 4 hours, right? Not much difference from where we are on the 1 hour, right? But if you zoom in further, currently this move or this leg up over here, it's still showing you bullish structure on the 15 minutes. So if we do see any sign of reversal, right, it should first be reflected on the 15 minutes time frame, given the fractal nature of markets, right? So if that reversal happens, right, then this would be a potential target. It also shows that it's in line with the higher time frame structure. So that's the picture for me on dollar index. Right, let's take a look at pound dollar next. And if you have any questions, right, do put your questions under the questions tab. So let's take a look at pound dollar. So again, let me just remove all those drawings, right? Let's start from the higher time frame. So on the higher time frame, if you're on the monthly time frame, you can see that right now, right, we're seeing a push down, strong move down, price broke structure, and we're seeing a pullback, right, within this whole leg itself. In terms of supply zones, right, on the monthly time frame, you can see that just resistance areas, right, marking out key levels, which price interacted with multiple times. You can see this zone over here, right? So it's a resistance area. I'll just put this in a different color. And it's a resistance area here because of how price interacted with the zone, right? And you see that if we're to just look at just supply zones, right, or supply chains, you can see just this portion of the chart, this area, right? So if you're on the monthly time frame, essentially this move, if I were to put it in a line chart, you can see that this move forming lower lows and lower highs, right? This is basically showing you market structure on your weekly or daily. So it's actually showing you bearish market structure here. Okay, so if I'm on the monthly time frame, you can see that this candle, right, each candle basically represents the price movement in a month, right? So on the monthly picture, you can see that this resistance area that we have, if you are to zoom down to the weekly, for example, right, it's basically just an area which price reacted before that breakthrough. Okay, so that's the picture for me on the monthly. Right, now let's go down to the weekly time frame. So right now what we have on the weekly, right, you can see that just looking at, again, key zones, we have this support area here. Right, so it was the previous support region. You can see just taking the wicks of this candle. Let me again put this in a different color, right? So price came into this zone. We saw that reaction. Probably on the daily, it will be clearer, right? So when price comes into this area, you can see that it was the previous low. And price came in, retested this zone following that break. And then once again over here, right, you see a strong push up to this area. And then following which there is this candle over here, which shows that you have sellers coming in, right? But fail to push price lower before that zone breaks. And once this zone breaks, what happens is that you can see again, right, demand chain following through, right? So if I were to focus on this zone, following the break of this area, you can see that there is a demand here. Right, so demand zone, price broke above, right? So we always look at a break in structure, right? So when price broke above structure, you can see that the last candle that causes that break in structure would be this candle here, which then serves as a demand area, right? And then once again, price pushed higher, did not break above this high. You can see that forms equal high. So came into the demand zone again over here, right? So because this didn't break structure, you can see that this move up didn't break structure, which is why this area, right, wouldn't serve as a strong demand area. Whereas this candle that we have, you can see that it broke past the last high. Okay, so price once again came into the demand area here. You can see that it then broke above this high, right? So broke above the last high, retested again as a support, and then prices continue to the upside. So that's the picture on the daily, right? Right now, where we are over here, if you take a look at the most recent price movement, we have again, right, price forming higher lows and higher highs. Just by looking at structure, you can see here, right, price forming your higher lows and higher highs. Coming into this zone, right, currently on the daily time frame, our last demand area or our last support area, right, is this candle here. So you can see this candle, right, this whole move actually. Okay, again, why, right? If you were to zoom down, right, let's go down to the 4 hours time frame. So you can see that this is the last high that we have. You can see the last high, right? So price broke above. Oops. So you can see that price broke above your last structure over here, and then following which this is the last demand area. Once again, caused the break in structure, which is this high over here, right? So when price comes into this zone, you can see that this demand area, right, would be the zone, right, on the daily time frame. So if you go on to the daily time frame, you can see this last candle, right? So this on the daily, you can see that this would actually have been this whole candle here, right? So depending on how you want to mark out this zone, for me, this zone is a bit too big, right? But that's the idea, right? So essentially prices are sitting on some kind of daily demand or daily support region. So you can either take it based on the close, right? Or you can take it based on the previous candle's close. So either one works. Okay, so this is the picture on the daily, right? So same thing, right? The thought process is that if prices are sitting on the daily zone, right, down to the 4 hours area, coming into this area, right, you can once again see bearish structure, right? So we'll be seeing lower lows and lower highs coming into this zone. And only when there is a change in structure on your 4 hours time frame, then this shows that there's potential for more upside, right? Because if prices are in a bearish market structure with no change in your structure, right, then it shows that prices are not respecting this demand area. Because what happens is that if price comes into this demand area, you can see that it could continue forming lower lows and lower highs, right, breaking this zone altogether. So that's the picture for me, right? So if you are on the daily, you can see that it's currently sitting on some kind of potential daily demand area. But how do we know whether this zone is going to hold, right? Because price could continue lower. If you're on the daily time frame, you can see that prices are forming lower lows and lower highs coming into this area, this structure here. And then when we come into this zone, you can see that this is the last high that was being formed, right? Price broke below the low, so this high, if the downtrend is to continue, price should be forming lower lows and lower highs. That's one. But you can see what happens after on the 1 hour time frame. Price broke above structure. So right now, right, on the 1 hour time frame, it's bullish for me, right? So with that, we want to try and find support areas that we can potentially trade from. Okay, so on the 1 hour time frame, what we have over here is that we are seeing this move up, price pushing above it, and a potential retracement, right, as to the support level that we can take a look at, right, on the 1 hour time frame. You can see that looking at the recent price development, right, we have this area here. So if you notice this area, right, price traded in a range, it moves sideways. And then what happens after is that price broke above the high. You can see this area, price broke above this high. The last high that we have over here, this structure. And that candle that breaks above this high, right? So this zone, right? The candle that caused that break of this structure, right, actually swept below the previous low as well. So it swept below this area, right? So it's below this low. Okay, so if I to just go down slightly further, right, maybe down to the 30 minutes, we will be able to see this, right? So you can see the structure on the 30 minutes. So essentially price came in, right? It's forming again your higher lows, higher highs coming into this zone. And then what we have is that price came in, it swept below this low. And then this area, right, broke above the high. So this candle for me is the demand area, this candle over here. Right, so I'll just put this in, let's say in purple, right, on the 30 minutes time frame. If you want to work with a wider range, right, on your 1 hour, you can actually just highlight this whole candle. Okay, so either one, right, depending on the range that you're looking at. So right now, this is the area for me. So what we can do following this, right, having identified our area, is to take a look at our move. So you can see that this is the push up, and we're expecting that pullback, right? So we can take a retracement of this move here. Right, so when we want to try and find Fibonacci retracement for our support levels, right, we're trying to identify the lowest point and highest point, and we're trying to use this point as reference. So in this case, this is the low, that's the high, right? So we want to take this move and try and see if there are any retracement levels that line up there. So in the previous sessions that I covered, right, on retracement, right, the idea is that at almost every level, you will be able to see a Fibonacci retracement, right? So what we are trying to do over here is that we're trying to find if there are any retracement levels that line up with the zone that we have identified. So that's the idea. So in this case, you can see that the 78.6 retracement lines up with this purple zone here. right? So that's one, right? And the other thing is to, of course, check for our extension. So extension, just a quick recap, right? They are zigzag patterns. So in this case, the extension levels that we're looking at, right? They're basically zigzag patterns trying to project potentially where price might go, right? So in this case, you can see that this is the extension level. Okay, so this is the extension level. So we're trying to project the extension here. So this would be the zigzag pattern. So this will be 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So I use extensions and retracements more as a tool, right? But the main thing, if you notice from the analysis, it's mainly trying to identify the zones first, right? So this is secondary, right? So you can see the 100% extension lying just slightly above the zone, right? In fact, we might even want to explore the 1.272, right? 127.2, right? So this is lying slightly below. So in this case, right, I'll just go with the 100%, but understanding that there is some kind of confluence, right, lying slightly above these areas. Okay, so for me, pound dollar is bullish, right? If you take a look at it on the daily and even the 1 hour time frame, right? So this is currently the zone that I'm waiting for. Right, let's see if it's also sitting on, or it's forming some kind of channel here, right? So this area. So again, if you want any channel to be valid, you need a tap of a support and resistance level two times, right? So you can see here, this is one, this is the other, and then again, a support level over here and a support level there. Okay, so yeah, this is one area to watch. Okay, so I think that if price comes into a demand zone over here, right, again, if you're on the 1 hour time frame, if you want to wait for lower time frame confirmation, right, pulling back into this demand area, we could see price push again to form lower lows, lower highs before it comes into this area. Then if we are trying to see a lower time frame confirmation, right, again, that would first happen on your lower time frame in terms of a change in market structure. Okay, so that's the picture for me on pound dollar, right? So this is the area to watch. Okay, let's take a look at another setup, right? If you guys have any other chart requests as well, right, do put them under the tab. Okay, so another setup that we would like to take a look at, right? Actually, it's on dollar CAD. So dollar CAD is sitting on an interesting level right now. So let's start from the higher time frame first. Oops. So if we are on the monthly time frame, right, or even the weekly time frame, right, not so much of the monthly, right, on the monthly zone, you have a potential area that prices are sitting on over here. Just remove this. Right, so resistance and support area, you can see that interaction, right? So price coming into this zone, failing it, retesting this region, broke above it, right, and then pull back, and it's currently forming some kind of support area here. If you're on the weekly time frame, right, you can see on the weekly time frame, prices it broke above the last high. That's one. You also have a bullish or ascending trend line that it's currently testing, right? So this is another zone. Right, so this is the picture on the weekly. Just checking the retracement levels on the weekly, you can see that this is the move up, and we're seeing that pullback, right? So just taking this retracement from low to high here. You can see that currently it is testing, or rather it broke below, right? It broke, and right now it's just kind of testing this level. So 88.6 retracement, right? Sitting somewhere at this zone. So this is the picture on the weekly time frame, right? If you take a look at it on the daily, right? So on the daily, even though prices are coming into this demand area over here, you can see that on the daily, right? Just looking at the most recent moves, it's still showing you bearish market structure. Right, so lower lows, lower highs, price broke above the last low, and this is the high. So if we have any targets on the daily, just based on structure, right, this is the high that we want to consider. Okay, so that's the picture for me on the daily. We are seeing a potential descending channel, potentially, right? Okay, so again, potential one, right? But in this case, I think this is not as ideal, because generally a channel, we want to see price, evenly distributed and testing the zones, right? But in this case, you can see that the support areas or resistance areas are gathered here, and the support zones here. Okay, but this is still a channel nonetheless, right? So it's just something for us to watch. So you can see that just based on the channel, we have the daily resistance here. I'll just mark out this area, right? So this high. If you want to put it in close, you can as well, right? So this area, in fact, if I had to extend it across, you can see this zone, right? Again, being respected multiple times. Okay, so you see how price tested this region as a support and resistance. So this is the daily resistance area to watch, right? So maybe I'll just put this as the daily resistance. Okay, so that's on the daily. If you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that right now we're seeing that pullback of this leg, right? If you're on the 4 hours, this whole pullback, again, you are seeing bullish structure, right? So higher lows, higher highs set up in form. So on the 4 hours, right, unless we're seeing again any change in market structure on the 4 hours right now, just based on support resistance levels, you can see that this is the last support area that we have. Just highlight this in purple, right? So you can see higher lows and higher highs that's being formed. You can also see again the potential channel being formed here. So this is the daily, the 4 hours, right? So bullish channel. So price could go in a zigzag manner, right? And then again, if it comes into higher time frames resistance, the lower time frame would first show. So in this case, right, on the 4 hours picture, right, where we are, right? So let me just remove all these channels on the higher time frame, right? Now that we are done with the analysis. So this is the picture for me on the 4 hours, right? We're sitting on some kind of ascending channel. We could see a pullback into this zone, but again, right, if we do see a pullback into this area, you want to again use your lower time frame for confirmation of this zone. So in this move itself, right, you want to again use your retracement. So this is the last push up. So if we're seeing any retracement from here, right, this is the low I want to use as well as the high. So when you take a look at the retracement level from low to high, you can see that the 61.8 retracement, right, this zone lines up with the 4 hours demand area here. That's one. Right, so another thing to check would be, again, extension levels, basically zigzag patterns. You can see these 3 points are the points you want to use as reference. Right, so there's 3 points, 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. And you can see again, right, 100% extension lining up with the purple zone, which is the 4 hours potential demand. Right, so this is the picture for me, right? If price comes into this zone, again, you can go down to your lower time frame. Right, so if it starts pushing deep into this area, right, you should see lower lows, lower highs being formed. So any respect of the zone, you'll first see that sign of change on the lower time frame. Okay, so that's the picture for me on dollar CAD, right? Something to be careful of. It's that on dollar index, right? You can see that DXY is still bearish, right? It's currently sitting on a channel, what we've went through earlier. So this is just something for us to watch, right? Just something to be careful of when you're doing that, because if dollar index is bearish, right, then we need to weigh the dollar against the CAD, right? So looking at dollar index as well as CXY. Okay. So this is the picture for me, right? If price comes into this zone, you can see on the daily it's still bearish, right? So we could come into a potential resistance area for the reversal, right? Or that change in structure first happen on the lower time frame. Okay, so I see that we have no questions. Okay, so if we have no questions, right, that's all that we have for today. Okay, so if you want to take a look at the recordings, right, if you want to take a look at the recordings, you can go to Vantage YouTube page. You'll see the recordings there. If you have any questions, right, do email support@vantagemarkets.com. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of this session, right? So thanks everyone for staying with us till the end. Have a great trading week ahead, right? And we'll catch you guys again tomorrow.